everyone, welcome back to Touch the Fire Twice. I'm Joshua, and I'm here today to do a Bath & Body Works White Barn Candle Company haul and in-depth sniff review of two candles from a recent launch at Bath & Body Works from their Capsule collection celebrating Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. But before we dig into these, if you're new to Touch the Fire Twice, welcome. My mission here is to share my love and passion for fine home fragrance as an enthusiast, an educator, a reviewer, to inspire you to increase your own fragrance knowledge and understanding, ultimately enhancing the scent memories that you create. If you want to learn more about what I do, why I do it, how I do it, you can check out my website at TouchTheFireTwice.com and follow me over on Instagram and TikTok at TouchTheFireTwice. But for now, let's dig into these candles. So as Bath & Body Works has done over the past year, so they've released some special capsule collections to celebrate Black History Month in February, to celebrate Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month in May, and they've kind of evolved into a perfumers focused series for 2023, which I really enjoy. So in February 2023 for Black History Month, Bath & Body Works created a capsule collection featuring fragrances from perfumer Michael R. Carby, celebrating the perfumer behind some of our favorite fragrances from Bath & Body Works over the years. So really interesting to see them celebrate the actual perfumer who happens to be Black or Asian American, or who knows what they might celebrate next. I love the idea that they're really focusing on the perfumers. First of all, to elevate them and show the diversity and inclusiveness of the perfume world and Bath & Body Works, but also because, just as a sort of fragrance nerd, I love the idea of getting behind the scents and understanding the perfumer, the story, sort of what brought them to a scent. And of course, we know that Bath & Body Works then kind of markets and adds their own twist to it, because the scent can have 12 notes in it and could be marketed 12 different ways depending on what would sell best. So it's really interesting to see how Bath & Body Works does that. And we'll actually see that with one of these scents as well. But I think it's a really great way to celebrate people, elevate them, and show some of the faces and minds and noses behind the fragrances that we sniff all the time at Bath & Body Works. And in May of 2023, for Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, they chose to highlight 4 fragrances and a capsule collection from perfumer Chiaki Nomura. She's a perfumer with a wide array of experience. They say that she's traveled to over 40 countries, and obviously so many of her scents are pulled from the experiences she has in her journeys. And they actually posted a brief interview with her on their website, which was really interesting to, again, hear her stories behind that. So I will be inserting some clips for the 2 candles that I purchased so we can hear from Chiaki what she wants these scents to evoke: the mood, that moment, the memory, space, place, or time, as I always say. So this collection features 4 scents. So Flannel, which has been around for, gosh, I think 11 years at this point. I think it came out in probably 2012, originally in the White Barn Fall collection. There's also Spiced Cardamom, which I believe was first launched in 2022 and is a very intense fragrant note that I didn't get a ton of actually in the candle. It was a bit spicy, it was a little bit light, maybe a little creamy perhaps. It wasn't the intense spice market. And then there were 2 that were new to me, one which is being marketed as a new fragrance altogether, and one is a returning fragrance from the past couple of years. So first we'll dig into the fragrance that I find perhaps the most intriguing and the one that they're marketing as new, which is Sea Salt and Palms. Now, Chiaki said in the video that the aesthetic or the design behind the capsule collection really was kind of celebrating her own vision and her aesthetic, the really simple, clean lines and the black and white, as you see here. And so we have on here sort of a quote from Chiaki, which I think is great to see. And it says, "Captures the spirit of being immersed in the paradise of a Bali beach, Balinese breeze, lush palms, and salted pomelo." Now, before I get my nose in this, and I will say this is an in-depth sniff review because I have burned this just once or twice, but I got my nose on it and can do a post-burn review on this, though it's not completed. The interesting thing about this one is that this actually, though it is being marketed as a new fragrance, kind of, yeah. As we know, Bath & Body Works does testing on many, not all fragrances, but they do, throughout the year, they do test collections that sometimes are just early launch, that they'll put in their test stores, maybe 8 to 10 candles, and they'll bring 6 of those 8 or 8 of those 10 wide a few months later when they release them to the stores nationwide. And other times they will do these collections that don't necessarily have a ton of marketing behind them and are really just kind of simple labels, but a cohesive collection, or could be argued cohesive collections, of 8 to 10 candles that are not meant to come out later that season, but almost perhaps a year later, likely with a different name, randomly thrown into other collections, but seeing what scents really resonate with their buyers to say, okay, let's put the most popular ones in the store. Understandably, they're there to make money. That's one of their user testing methods. Now, what's interesting is this fragrance has been part of test collections, I believe collections plural, in the past, though with a different name than Sea Salt and Palms, and it was known as Blue Bungalow. It gets really interesting because there have actually been 3 candles released at Bath & Body Works over the years called Blue Bungalow, 2 of which have the same scent notes as sea salt and palms, one of which does not at all. So they just reused the name. Stick with me for a second. If you like this kind of thing, I think you'll find it enjoyable. I think the marketing behind it is just kind of interesting, the whole testing and iteration on building a fragrance and marketing a fragrance, right? So in 2018, there was a Blue Bungalow. I believe this might have been a test candle. I don't think it went wide. Please correct me, I'm not really certain. And I'm confident that it is the same fragrance because the scent notes on there were swaying palms, salty breezes, golden rattan cane, and sweet grapefruit. So you've got a straightforward there. The palms, the breeze, the grapefruit, pretty clear that that's going to be the same fragrance. In 2022, there was a White Barn, kind of a White Barn core test collection where we've seen some of these fragrances actually come out. I believe that the 2023 Blush Geranium and Fern candle was in this White Barn core white jar test collection. Another one in there was Blue Bungalow. At the time, that was tested in 2022. The notes on that one were leafy palms, ocean sea fern, and juicy pink grapefruit. So again, we've got palm, sea fern versus salty breezes, close enough, and a variation, adjective, grapefruit. So sweet grapefruit, juicy pink grapefruit, and now salted pomelo, which a pomelo is a grapefruit. And so that, don't want to say that failed because that collection itself didn't go wide. It really was just they were testing fragrances to see where they could put them in 2023 collections. But then now in 2023, in wide launches in one of their earlier tropical collections this year, they released a fragrance called Blue Bungalow with different notes. So the notes on that one, as you can see here and is in all stores now, are salted sea breeze, beachside eucalyptus, and floral shores. Similar, you've got you're still talking the beach, similar vibe, but having smelled that one, I know it's different. Looking at the ILN or ingredient list number at Bath & Body Works on the website, you can compare to see, is this fragrance, the ingredients in this jar, an exact match duplicate repackage of another? And very clearly the wide launch 2023 Blue Bungalow is a different ILN, different notes, different scent, clearly, compared to the Blue Bungalow test from 2022 and the Sea Salt and Palms. However, the notes on this one, the ILN on this one, the test 2022 Blue Bungalow, same ILN as this and same notes, changing, an adjective here and there. So all that to say, what I find interesting, there are a lot of folks who hate the idea of repackages and who cares and that. I find it interesting, not from a aha gotcha, but more so just from the marketing behind it. I think, to me, I indirectly learned something from Bath & Body Works and marketing, how they really can test and twist and influence our noses, influence our feelings. If they say the story behind it is one thing versus something else, you may love or hate it. Now, I think a lot of us in the candle community, we pride ourselves in having stronger noses or like stronger conviction on what we like and what we don't like. So maybe some of that doesn't matter to us. Give us, white wax in a clear jar, no name, and we'll still have an opinion on the candle, as you rightly should, because you're buying it for the fragrance. However, it is interesting because they've released some candles in the past. I remember there was a Ski Lodge-esque candle that was tested as Havana Nights, and it was a sultry night in Cuba with a cigar, and then it was marketed or actually released wide as a ski lodge in the Swiss Alps. So it's just, you can have the same fragrance, evoke that mood, moment, memory, space, place, or time in very different ways, which I just think is interesting. It really is about the story that we tell. So all that to say, Sea Salt and Palms, not that far off from Blue Bungalow 2018, 2022, especially when it comes to the notes shared there. And I like the idea of it. So that is the history sort of some of the tests. So this is new in this name and perhaps the fact that it went wide. Either way, Chiaki Nomura created this fragrance for us. So getting my nose on it, I do like this. It's not immediate, oh, it's so unique, it's wild, it's incredible, I must have it. I will say, full transparency, with both of these fragrances, had they not been part of the Capsule collection celebrating Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, I may not have purchased them. They're not must-haves for me, but I really wanted to respect and celebrate Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month and the fact that Bath & Body Works is doing this. I wouldn't want them to sit in the shelves because I want them to celebrate diversity, equity, inclusion, and the perfumers behind the fragrances, whether it's part of a celebration of a Heritage Month or History Month, or just in general, giving us kind of behind the scenes what goes on in the creation of these fragrances that we have in our lives every day, right? So, Sea Salt and Palms, though, I do like it. It is green. It is tropical. I would, not necessarily tropical, kind of like that jungle feeling where it's humid, it's warm. It could lean almost borderline to what some folks would call kind of cologne-y because there is, let's call it that salted pomelo. Not very floral, which I appreciate. Fairly green. They say the palms, the breeze. Of course, breeze is, okay, is it aquatic? Is it oceanic? Breeze could be one of a million scents, maybe something a little bit mossy, as they say. Sea fern was listed in the test scent from 2022, so you think perhaps a green fern, kind of vegetal. The pink grapefruit adds a bright pop of citrus. I wouldn't call out grapefruit maybe on its own, because it leans almost towards kind of that cleaner grapefruit to me. It's not super juicy, it's not sweet, more of that salted. So I said, I think in another video, I forget which candle it was, but almost like I was getting a lemon fragrance, but it was more almost like a preserved lemon. So lemons in salt, preserved. And that's kind of, I like that it's called salted pomelo here, because it's telling you this isn't a juicy, bright, sweet, drinkable pomelo or grapefruit. It adds a light, zesty airiness to it, but not a tropical drink fruity sweetness. So you've got that salty sea breeze, the green palms that just add that vegetal, and it does smell sophisticated, let's say that. My issue with this candle, however, because this is a post-burn review, is when this was lit, it had a healthy performance as far as the pool goes. You can see it got some big, heavy wicks on there, but it really didn't smell like this fragrance when lit. It doesn't happen often with Bath & Body Works, but sometimes it does happen where it really was just giving me kind of like a kerosene or a burning scent, which really means this was likely overwicked. Either the wax was burning at too fast and hot of a rate that it was not allowing the fragrance molecules to come into the air, but just burning them off, and you were just getting the scent of the singed or burnt oils and or the wax itself just burning away, combusting. So that's a bummer, because I only lit it, I think, honestly, that one time. Perhaps if I did it again, it would come out better. But when I walked in my study to smell it, I wasn't getting the fragrance that I got before I lit it on cold, and the fragrance that I am still getting on cold. So just like an unfortunate formulation issue or error for me, a quality control issue with this fragrance. But I'm not that heartbroken, because the scent for me is nice, but there are a lot of scents at Bath & Body Works and other places that are like this. It's not immediately so different, so unique that I must have it. It's nice. If you went to a restaurant and they're burning this, you would think it was totally enjoyable, sophisticated, tropical forest fragrance. Then moving on to Blue Orchard Skies. Chiaki says, inspired by late summer apple orchard visits, when the sweetly scented air takes on the crisp chill of fall. Pink lady apple, soft white woods, and fresh orchard air. Now let's hear from Chiaki how she describes her inspiration behind this fragrance.
Blue Orchard Sky is inspired by my visit to Apple Orchard, upstate New York, and the smell of the air was so crisp and sweet and very fragrant.
Okay, I've been to apple orchards in upstate New York, so let's see how this works for me. And I have burned this. This is nice. It's fairly mainstream, kind of similar to the sea salt and palms. I don't hold that, I don't want to say against, but I don't hold that against Chiaki, because, you know, as a perfumer, you are contracted to work for Bath & Body Works and create certain fragrances that they're looking for. And so I believe she probably built this specifically for them versus building it and then shopping it around. Though frankly, I don't know exactly the ins of the fragrance industry. I'd love to learn more about it. But Bath & Body Works doesn't always want something wildly conceptual and out there. They want something that's going to appeal to the masses, which these do in that sense. But I just wish there was more complexity, or kind of something that made these fragrances really stand apart from others like it in similar categories and notes. We've got the apple, woods, and air. So really, white woods, that's real, but kind of conceptual. Fresh orchard air, that's of course an accord. You're going to have probably a little bit of floral in there, maybe a little bit something woody in there, perhaps something just synthetic to give you sort of that fresh air breeze fragrance. And your lady apple. So to me, it really comes across as certainly apple forward, which is good. Not so much a sweet, juicy, fresh apple necessarily. A little bit more like the apple skin, kind of tannic a little bit. More of like a body care apple versus a direct port of trying to transport you to truly an apple. This is quite conceptual, which even in the idea here, it is the walkthrough. It's not like you're cutting apples for an apple pie. There's a difference for what the perfumer wants to evoke in this. And it is quite soft. Perhaps some sort of floral in there, but not anything major. The white woods, I would almost say like a soft musk perhaps to this, or a powder, something powdery, because this for me almost feels a little bit like a laundry fragrance. You know, you have a lot of those air notes and the fluffy notes and, you know, your linens and things like that when it comes to laundry fragrances, but also some botanicals and probably some florals and some aquatic notes. I mean, it can kind of go all over the place for your laundry day, your clean white t-shirt, your soft linen, your fresh cotton, all that, right? But this could be in that category for me, and just the bit of a sweet apple angle to it. You know, if you smell this in literal laundry detergent or dryer sheets or Bounce or Febreze, kind of your home cleaner fragrance category, or deodorizers when it comes to your Glade plugins, which you could argue that Bath & Body Works Wallflowers are in that category, but to me it's a bit different. Like your Glade plugins, your Febreze, your things like that are really meant to mask other odors versus just adding this layer of fragrance for the sake of having a layer of fragrance. But this does feel kind of like that. So it's softly sweet with that apple. I actually wish it was more of a wood, more of like something intense, a little bit darker, a little bit more autumnal maybe. Blue Orchard skies, so it is a late summer, so that kind of makes sense. You're not getting deep into, an apple orchard where you're getting perhaps like a cool evening with a little bit of cedar or juniper or something where it brings it down a bit, or maybe some grasses. This is that lighter, brighter, and sky, right in the name, makes you think it's going to be lighter. So it's like blue skies outdoor scent that is an August afternoon going into September, so it's not the dog days of summer. And that apple just adds that little touch of fall is coming. So it's nice. I'm sure many people love it. Not a favorite of mine. I don't know if and when I'll burn this again, to be entirely honest. This one did have a bit of a better burn on it as far as the actual fragrance getting into the air versus the sea salt and palms, but still was nothing to write home about as far as the strength, throat, and projection, though it did have a healthy pool and burn. You can see it has mushroom caps on the tops of those wicks. So that's my overall experience. Again, I'm really happy to see them celebrating Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. I like to see the perfumers behind our fragrances, their stories. I worry that because this doesn't necessarily match the typical Bath & Body Works aesthetic, that some of these may sit on the shelves. I hope it doesn't mean they don't do these fragrances again. And frankly, Blue Orchard Skies, Flannel, Spice Cardamom likely were popular scents, which is why Bath & Body Works was willing to bring them back, because for all we know, Chiaki may have 25 fragrances of Bath & Body Works. We just don't know which ones may have been created by her because they don't tell us, other than during these special months during capsule collections, who the perfumers are behind the fragrances. I know that some folks were saying, on Instagram and things like that, like, well, if it's for Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month, why are they fragrances that are out of season? Why aren't they fragrances that are influenced by or celebrating Asian culture and countries in Asia? And I can get that there are some that could work for that, but they're really trying to celebrate the perfumer behind them. That's why I had Michael R. Carby, a Black man who was celebrated for Black History Month with a wide array of fragrances. And like this, they're celebrating Chiaki, an Asian American, with a wide array of fragrances that she created. But for folks who were looking for something that was more like, hey, it's Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month, I want something that is related to Asian culture, then I would highly recommend check out Emmy NYC, formerly known as Emmy Essentials. This is not sponsored. I don't receive PR from them. I just love the brand, love the fragrances, love the candles. I have a couple of videos here you can check out where I've done reviews, in-depth sniff and comparison reviews on Emmy NYC candles. First of all, they are AAPI owned and operated, and they developed all of their fragrances around Asian influenced scents and fragrances. Sometimes you've got things like boba or matcha green tea. You also have sakura, your cherry blossoms. You have more conceptuals. You have woody, spicy. You have gourmands. A wide array, a beautiful jasmine tea that I reviewed earlier this spring that I adore. And so if you're looking for those type of fragrances, great. I highly recommend check out Emmy NYC if you want to get your fix of Asian inspired fragrances. Really, really great stuff. Otherwise, if you can recommend any other Asian American Pacific Islander owned or inspired collections, would love to hear from you on that. Your thoughts on these candles as well, or the other candles from this Perfumer's capsule collection. And until next time, take care.